Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Wow.
All right, thanks a lot, Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Nightly. What do we call the Ireland? You know what? Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm just a little tired, Gene. I'm a little tired. Yeah, I couldn't even get it out of my mouth. 412-575-2600 is a number. Going sans jacket today. Gene, I had a three-piece suit on.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, and, you know, I just wanted to put the vest on.
Yeah, you show it off.
Show the vest off.
And the guns.
And the lack of guns for me. But anyways, a lot going on at Steelers headquarters. They want to be more aggressive on offense. Mason Rudolph practiced again today. Jalen Samuels went through a full practice. It doesn't sound like he's going to play, maybe. The one guy that was kind of limited or did not practice, well, was limited out there, was T.J. Watt. But I have a feeling he's going to play. I mean, I talked to him earlier today, and it sounds like he's really going to play.
Yeah, Steelers have what sometimes gets called a trap game.
Yeah.
With the Dolphins, because the Dolphins are absolutely awful. But you know, that has never stopped the Steelers from losing to these teams at home. It's kind of been kind of idiosyncratic with them. So, you know, that's really the issue of the week. Will they respond, and will they do what everyone knows they can do, get out of this with a win?
Well, yeah, and it's been done in the past. You know, the Steelers play down to their competition, and they do it frequently, kind of like Pitt. You know, they lose games that they shouldn't lose, and then maybe sometimes they win games that they shouldn't win. But the way this schedule sets up for the Steelers right now, their next 3 games are at home. They could easily, I'm not going to say it's going to be easily, but they could easily win all 3. They would be 5-4. I think they can I think they have the potential to beat all 3 teams. This is the game that they should win. They're 14.5-point favorites. It's kind of a homecoming for Minkah Fitzpatrick. You think he'll be fired up a little bit for that game? Do you think it even matters? I mean, he kind of wanted out of there.
He definitely did, and you know, he kind of leveraged the situation in the way that more and more players are doing, and you know, more power to him. Richie, maybe you in tune with this kind of stuff. I don't know. Can you remember the Steelers being a 14.5-point favorite?
Yeah, I feel like I am in tune with some of those things, but 14.5 points is a lot. Like, they were favored over Jacksonville by 9 a couple years ago, I remember.
Yeah, maybe one of our callers will know.
Yeah, I'm sure one of our callers would definitely know. That sounds like a FanDuel question, but I would imagine maybe not last year, but the year before when they were playing well, maybe at the beginning of last year. I'm trying to think of some bad teams that they played. What about Oakland last year? I think they were double-digit favorites on the road in Oakland.
Really?
Yeah, Oakland was really bad. 2-win team.
It's true, 2-win team, yeah.
They lost that game.
They did, yep.
What was the spread in the AFC Championship in, what was that, 94? Weren't they double-digit favorites in that game, too?
They were. I don't think it was 14.5, but it might have been 11 or 12, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and look at tonight's game. Thursday Night Football. Now it's 19-9, but that game was relatively close, and Minnesota was a 17-point favorite in that game.
Now, someone who's watching us will remember that. We'll have that answer. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I would love to know when the last time the Steelers were 14.5-point or more favorites. If you could call in and let us know, 412-575-2600. But, you know, I mean, if I'm a betting man, and I'm not telling people to bet, and I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but 14.5 is a ton of points, and you know, I would take the Dolphins. The Dolphins are really bad, but 14.5 points is a lot of points, and the Steelers haven't really shown that they could score that many points. Their most points that they've scored this year were 27 against the Bengals.
Right.
They scored, what, 24 last week, 2 weeks ago?
26, 3.
23.
Don't forget 3.
3, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It potentially could be a trap game, like you said, because they get the Colts week after, team you might be fighting with for a wild card. Then you have the LA Rams, and that's going to be a tough one at home. So at least they're getting healthy right now. You had a chance to talk to Tyson Alu. I don't think that's going to be a big drop-off up front. I mean, I know Stephon Tuitt sometimes takes on 2 or 3 guys, and he does a good job. But, you know, I think Alu, 1 and 1A, I don't think you're going to see much difference
I think Tyson Alualu and Javon Hargrave are underappreciated players. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, and they have a 4-guy rotation. One of the questions I asked them today is, are they going to continue to do a rotation with maybe McCullers or Isaiah Buggs? Are those guys going to get some time? And, you know, that's more of a question for the coach. But I think you're going to see mostly those 3 guys. I think the other guys are going to maybe pick up the slack behind them, like the T.J. Watts and the Devin Bushes of the world.
Right.
But Stephon, I'm not trying to minimize Stephon Tuitt. He's a huge part of this defense, but I think
he's having a nice year too.
Yeah, I think Alu can come in there and you know, just you won't skip a beat. I think the defense, and that defense is playing really well right now, and that would be a big reason moving forward. If they do make a run and they do get into playoffs, it's because of the defense, maybe not the offense. I do want to talk about the offense, though. There's something that, you know, potentially Josh Gordon could get waived here soon. And I want to get your opinion if that's someone the Steelers would take a chance on. All right, 412-575-2600 is the number. Get on the phone lines, 412-575-2600, back in 2 minutes.
The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, celebrating 25 years as Pittsburgh's #1 home exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters, where honesty and integrity still matter.